Hey, folks, and welcome to this episode of your greatest ever podcast. I'm Colin Gray, and I'm the founder of Alitu, and we're providing this little demo recording, I should say, I suppose, of a podcast for you to play around with in Alitu, just to find out how it all works. So I'll tell you a little bit about how Alitu started, the team behind it, the story behind it, and a little bit about how it works and what the intent is behind the tool. But of course, don't worry, you don't actually need to listen to any of this. It's really just here for you to have a play around with and to see how Alitu works and really get to know what it can do for you. So the whole principle behind it really is that Alitu is designed to make it as easy as humanly possible to create your podcast. And it all came from originally a site that I started in about 2010. So what's that, 13 years ago, which is nuts. I started writing about podcasting. I had been teaching podcasting for something like 2 or 3 years at that point. I was working at a university in Edinburgh, in Scotland, teaching lecturers how to use technology to be better teachers for their students. And podcasting was one of the fashionable, growing technologies at the time that people were using for education. So I was asked to look into podcasting as a tool for me to teach. And I started looking into it. I found out more about it, started buying some of the gear, and I just pretty quickly fell in love with the medium, to be honest. It was that kind of mix of, personality that comes across through podcasting, the intimacy that you feel with the host, their voice right in your ear, as if you're getting spoken to one-to-one. And the mix of that plus the in-depth content, the amount of depth and, the amount of content you can deliver and get attention towards, because people do it in their otherwise wasted time. That time when they're out walking the dog, or they're in the house ironing their clothes, or cooking your dinner, or on the way to work, or something like that. There's all of that together just made for this medium where you could learn so much, or be inspired so much, or be motivated, or just be entertained. And I just loved it. And so I learned more about it. I started teaching the lecturers at this university over about 2 or 3 years. And then I started the podcasthost.com, that website I mentioned, which then went on to write about podcasting, how to make a podcast, how to make it successful, how to grow it, how to monetize it, all that stuff. And all of that came together into the site that you now see today, which is the podcasthost.com, which we're in a lucky enough position that it became one of the biggest resources in the world on the web around podcasting. Which is great. But around when would it have been? About 2015, we had grown it to something like 250,000 people per month coming to see that site, which again is a bit nuts, which is great. And we got so much feedback. We had people getting in touch all the time. And we always asked, what are you struggling with most? Because that was how we powered our content. And one of the things that was most often reported as a barrier, a struggle, a real problem in podcasting was editing, of course. The fact that to be a podcaster, you almost had to become an audio engineer back then. You had to, learn how to use a proper DAW, a digital audio workstation, something like, Adobe Audition or Pro Tools or something like Audacity, something like that, which just has so many tools in there for proper full-on audio engineering, from cleanup to, multi-track editing to all this kind of stuff. And really 95% of that is not necessary for podcasters. Much more often than not, a podcast is simply a person or two people, sharing their message, having a conversation. And there's not that much more to it than that. You want to do a bit of cleanup, make sure the levels are right, the volumes. You maybe want to do a wee bit of noise reduction. But getting any deeper than that, generally, it's a bit pointless. It's too much. Maybe you want to add a bit of music, that kind of stuff. So at that point, where we're getting so many questions around how to make this easier, that I started looking into whether we could build a bit of software which would handle that for podcasters. And that is what ended up being Alitu. The first version of Alitu was a really kind of heavily guided process whereby you would record right into the browser, or you would upload a recording from elsewhere, wherever that was, and then it would do the cleanup. So it would do an audio cleanup, noise reduction and leveling at the time. We've added to that cleanup. Now we do EQ, we do buzz reduction, all that kind of stuff. So there's more to it now, but even then it was still pretty decent in terms of the noise reduction. And then from there, we had 3 stages of editing. So we actually cut it out into different sections. We had top and tail, which was you got to trim the start and the end. And then we had split, whereby you would actually be able to split the clip into parts if you wanted to put things in between, like adverts, or reorder the sections. And then we had mistake editing, which is when you can actually take out parts in the middle of the edit. And from there, we just export the file and give you it out to publish wherever you wanted. Later on, we built in, integrations with hosts so that you could publish direct to hosts. Then we built in call recording as well, so that you could actually record your calls directly into Alitu, bring in your guests or your co-hosts, which was a big addition. And then later, we had other things like transcripts. We built in transcripts. And most recently, we've built in hosting as well. So nowadays, it's an all-in-one platform designed to make it as simple and, again, as easy as possible to actually put your show together. So that was where it came from, really. It was through the requests from people on our website just asking to make this process easier. And we've kind of been guided by that throughout. We've always listened to our users. We've always listened to readers of the podcast host. What are people struggling with most? What can we add to it? And try to build it from there. So that was always the intent. That was always the idea. These days, Alitu, like I said, is an all-in-one platform. And hopefully for you, what it can do is give you a way to really just get your voice, your message out there into the world. That's kind of the mission behind our company, helping people to share their voice, share their message, and make a change in their lives, make a change in the lives of their listeners. There's so many purpose-driven podcasters out there that use Alitu. Indie podcasters are often driven by their purpose more than anything else. And that's kind of the most common people that we help, really, with Alitu. And that sort of even can go into hobbyists as well, who really just want to share their passion, grow a community around it. Can be businesses who want to grow their brand and kind of have their own purpose in their business. Businesses often want to benefit people's lives as well. So there's lots of different types of people that we work with, lots of different types of people that Alitu can help create that podcast, get that message out there into the world and share your voice. So I hope that's given you an idea, if you have listened to this, around what Alitu's kind of origin was, what it intends to do, what it's good for, and what it can help you with. And I hope this little bit of voice, a little bit of audio recording has given you something to play around with, something to edit. You can cut out some of my words, cut out the boring bits, cut out the little stutters. I've kept it completely basic, unedited, so that you can feel what a real recording is like if you want to go in there and try and edit out some of the mistakes or some of the pauses or anything like that as well. Thank you for listening. Thank you for trying out Alitu. I hope it helps you in your podcasting. Please do play around with it, see what it can help with. Use the bits you want, don't use the other bits. You can pick and mix the different elements of Alitu. Some people use the transcription, some don't. Some use the call recording, some don't. Tie in your hosting to Alitu or use the inbuilt hosting. It's kind of all a pick and mix for you. Use Alitu as your hub for your podcast and tie in any other tools that you like. Thank you very much again, and I'll talk to you soon.